I want you to pick up the books and be like, oh, this person just goes to work and then they go home and
then they get spanked. Hi, my name is Mel, and this is Romance Unleashed. And today we have AH Cunningham in the house with us, and we're actually doing a live recording, which we've never done before. So, woo woo!
oh, it's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about you, AH. Tell us everything. Your background. You're from South Florida. Give us all the tea.
So I was born and raised in Panama, and I came actually to the United States as an adult. Well, kind of an adult. I thought I was because I was 20 years old. Came to school, story old as time. I met a boy. And I thought I was going back to Panama. I was very like, no, I'm just here for school. I'm leaving. But no, he convinced me to stay.
Is the boy still around?
The boy's still around.
The boy still around.
And I have 2 children.
Yeah.
So he is definitely still around.
The plot thickens.
Exactly, forever and ever. We go like this. Yep. So lived for most of my adult life actually here in South Florida, which was lovely to come and visit. 3 years ago I actually moved to New Orleans. Like a lot of people during COVID, I had a moment of realization. First, I had just given birth to my second child, and I got the furlough call like right before I was supposed to go back to work, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I have 2 children. We need to live, we need to eat. We didn't know what was happening in the world. I've always loved reading, love romance reading. I've written as well, but it was always just for me. And I said, you know what, let me try and see if I actually publish. Like let me see what this looks like. But I think one of the biggest reasons why I'm here today is because I took my time to get to know the community. I had never thought of like, let me go online and see either people like me that like love reading books. I just was reading them at home, and that was it. I would like, it was hard to find certain books that I wanted to find. It's not that they were not out there, I just didn't know where to look.
Right.
And suddenly it was like a light bulb came up. Oh, by the way, my first language is Spanish, so if you hear mispronunciations, it's because I'm nervous. My apologies in advance. But then, I'm like, well, but why don't I go to social media and see if there are people like me that, read what I read and write what I would love to write. And that's how I met people like you that were in the community that, were just kind of showing and paving the way, both authors, readers, content creators. And I just made friendships and started writing. I would write at night. I was still breastfeeding. So it worked out because I was still not sleeping, so might as well do something else. And that's how Light was born. I self-published. I found Word Makers, which Tasha L. Harrison is the owner of, and that was also really helpful because I was able to have a better understanding of what that path is for self-publishing, which I think if you come in not knowing, it's really, I consider it a business. Like it really has a lot of steps and intricacies that you won't think about, right? Like I made sure that I had a trade name, like all of that stuff, like I did before I published a Light. And the rest of history has just been all like support from the community. Every time a book comes out and people enjoy it, I'm just kind of like, really? And also you read that? But I'm writing the things that I was looking for and that I wanted to see. I wanted to see us in books. So yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. What is that the Tasha L. Harrison, what is that program called?
So she has like a community of mostly independent authors, but there's hybrid authors and also traditionally published authors, and it's just a space to write, and it also has resources in regards to how to market yourself, how, like if you're like a new author and you're still, because even if you're not published, you're still an author. If you're
Right.
working on your manuscript, how to get agents, all of that type of resources. And then they get together, and it's harder for me to go into the writings now, but they'll have a Wednesday writing for anybody that is in the free program, and then if you pay for and it's super affordable, I think it's like $15 per month,
Okay.
you get to write, like there's a writing almost every day.
Awesome.
And there's different times that you could write.
So you do like writing sprints?
It's writing sprints, yeah.
Okay.
And then you kind of just come in community, and then every 40 minutes we pause and then we chat. Like, how's it going? What did you get done?
Okay.
You know, sometimes you might be kind of in a writing slump, so you now have support from other people that are doing the same thing, because writing is such an isolated, like, you're just doing it on your own, so now suddenly you're doing it with other people. They're just in the screen, like, hey, friend. So yeah, it's a pretty cool community, and there's so many other communities like that, and that really was the other side that really helped me a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So is what inspired you to write romance wanting to find, or I guess what inspired you to start writing? Was it being able to find books that you were looking for, that you wanted to read?
Yeah.
And what made you write romance?
I've been reading romance since I was probably too young. I have people here in the audience that know me for like since I was in diapers, so we're not gonna say ages or anything. But I was probably reading them before I should.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've always been that type of person that kind of like lives in like, I live in my head a lot, and like just think of like kind of ideas, and like I wake up, I'm like, oh, what if a story does this and then this happens, and I could just escape in books.
Okay.
So romance is my comfort side. Like I do read other genres, but whenever I wanted to just kind of feel cozy and like, it's romance. So that's what I wanted to write.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about Out of Office. This is your first traditionally published book, right? So what is Out of Office about? What can readers expect from it?
So first of all, I want to say, whoever, friends me in social media, you would hear me say that my books are mild. I stand by that. So I will start by saying that Out of Office is the mildest book I've ever written.
It is.
There you go.
I mean, we're talking spice.
I'm talking about
Yeah. It's definitely the mildest. I wouldn't say that all of your books are mild.
They're all mild. This is a spectrum.
Yes.
And I stand by that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Some of them are very mild, and some of them are
like high mild.
High mild.
Okay.
Exactly. And then the other day I'm like, I think I was talking to Linnell, and I was like, and mid-high mild, and so there's levels. So yeah, I stand by that.
Okay.
But Out of Office is a story of a older 30-year-old is old, so I don't know when that happened. But a 37-year-old that knows exactly what she wants of her life and career, and she is breaking glass ceilings, and suddenly she breaks that glass ceiling that she's working really hard on, and she starts kind of investigating her goals. And at the same time, she has a driver that has been taking her back and forth because she came to Panama to open a hotel, and she has a little bit of a crush on him, but she's keeping it professional, he's keeping it professional. And then suddenly when it's time for her to go back to Florida, they both decide to kind of like take a leap. I'm like, hey, I like you. And she has 2 weeks before she has to go back to work, and she decides to take a vacation, kind of out of norm. She usually plans everything to the T, and suddenly, her mom is also like an overachiever, and at the beginning the mom is like, what do you mean you're taking a vacation? Like, you need to get this job before. And she's like, no, I need to relax. And she takes her 2 weeks, and they both know that there's no future because they both have very kind of set goals in their lives.
Yeah.
But they still decide to, have a vacation together, and I won't spoil the rest. But it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, actually. Why was it important for you to tell this story? I feel like there's a really good balance between what a mother-daughter relationship is when you are an immigrant, and I also think there's this kind of theme of, as Latinas, that we're always working. Like, if we take a rest, there, that's not okay. We don't rest, right? So why was it so important for you to tell that story?
I think that as a the older millennial generation is starting to deconstruct some of those notions.
Yeah.
And I think we're all kind of going through it in different ways and realizing that it is okay for our goals and our career goals to change and to prioritize other things that maybe we didn't think we could prioritize before. And I think there's also a space for us to recognize what our parents, our elders have done and accomplished, and understand why that drive was there, and how to tell that story in a way that is like loving and caring on both sides. And I think it's also important to have a space to speak about, now that we as a community have a better opportunity to support our countries, how could we do it ethically in regards to tourism? So it's a subplot in the book, but you'll see that both characters kind of have a lot of conversations of how can we inject money in our communities without kind of harming the environment and the people that live there. So it's a little bit of just kind of that message, and then it's also a love story. And for my parents, they have a beautiful love story that includes being long distance, and that's part of the book as well. And they're the seed to the entire book.
Do you that was what I was going to ask you. Do you think have you been in a long distance relationship?
No, well, I mean, that boy and I, there were
that boy
3 months where he went home and I went home, but not the way that my parents did. They did long distance, and twice.
And they're still together.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. There's also a lot of like an homage to Florida and South Florida throughout the book. The main character, lives in South Florida. There was a specific part about Overtown that you talk about throughout the book. I had no idea that was the history of Overtown. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So I think I started learning about that history as I was moving to New Orleans, because having an understanding of a lot of the artists back in the day, where they used to stay when they would come and go to this, Copacabana, all of these places, they couldn't stay in Miami Beach, right? Like, so where were they staying? And that is how I kind of started investigating a little bit more about the history of the area. And I started falling in love with it. I think, as we all know, there's a lot of Black American towns that were really flourishing during the Reconstruction era that for whatever reasons kind of declined through the years. And the reason why Overtown declined through the years is that because they decided to have I-95 go in the middle of it, right? So I think there's always that conversation of, well, but why can't we do this, and the bootstraps and the blah blah blah. No, our people were doing that. They were flourishing, and there's very specific reasons why we were set behind in those towns, and I wanted to bring homage to that. And there's a lot of great people that are trying to revive that area and tell the story. And same way how I wanted to represent Panama, I wanted to bring that same level of love to South Florida.
Yeah, I think it was beautiful. I think people from South Florida who read that are gonna absolutely love it. After I read it, I was like, wait a minute, like I need to do all my research on Overtown now, because like I had no idea, right? Like growing up in South Florida, you always hear like, don't go to Little Haiti or don't go to Overtown, but like obviously like these communities were built off of something, and as we know, there is racism, and like how did those things set people back? So I thought it was a beautiful like honor to South Florida. We talked about you being traditionally published. All of your other books are indie, which for those who might not know, just means you're independently published. How has that journey been different?
I've been very lucky. John Jacobs, I will always sing their praises, because they understood my voice and they had read my work before we started working together, and that made it so much easier. I know that other hybrid authors might not have the same experience, so I don't want to invalidate that. Sometimes it's a hard experience to go through, but I've been very lucky because they've always vouched for my voice and my vision, and they took a lot of care in understanding what was already out, and that the community and the readers that read my books were going to expect something out of me, and we stayed true to that while still making sure that the book has mass appeal. So honestly, the main part is just not having control in every. I'm a Virgo. Everybody's laughing. I'm a very I am in a new place in my life where I'm trying not to plan everything all the time, but I'm a big planner. I want to have control on everything, so that part made my eye twitch a little bit. But honestly, I love the cover. I love the title. It's been a good experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your cover.
No. Which cover? This one?
All of them.
No.
So, this is a different cover from a beautiful cover, but
Lovely.
different from all the other covers that you've had.
Yeah.
Like what was that process like in difference, right? Because your other covers are a little bit, maybe not safe for work,
Very much not safe for work.
Yeah, but
It's
we
okay.
love them. Every time I put them out on the table, I'm like, trust me, you want to read this, because the cover tells you exactly what you're gonna get.
Exactly. And that is why they are the covers that they are. Yeah.
Was it like difficult or hard for you to have a different kind of cover for this book? I mean, we know it had to be more of a mass appeal, but you've had so much control over your other covers.
It was hard for me personally because I am very controlling of that process, and I work with great artists, but I do decide what the scene is going to be and exactly what I want to see. The reason why most of my covers are illustrated is because it is very hard for authors of color to find representation in stock photos.
Absolutely.
And there's definitely some photographers that are trying to do the work now to ensure that we have more content. But the reality is that it's very hard. Like, if you see the covers, it's the same model over and over and over. You'll see like 5 different covers with the same person. It's because we're all looking at the same pot. So I wanted them to be illustrated, but I didn't want people to pick up and think it's going to be a rom-com because it's illustrated. So it's that kind of like fine line of how you could do that.
It's not a rom-com.
So it's not a rom-com. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that they were mild and what they were picking up. So they asked they asked for copies of the other covers to get an idea of what I have out there, and that helped them understand the vision.
Okay.
And then we found the mass appeal with the cover that we have.
Okay. You got
exactly
to a middle mild.
A mid-mild. A low mild, because this is we found that.
It is.
Some of the covers are very Hidden Desires doesn't have like super steamy covers. Those are stock photos. Those are very no okay. I tried. There is just a photo of like people.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Let's talk about Afro-Latinidad.
Yeah.
There is not enough representation, I think, of Afro-Latinas and Afro-Latinos in
anything.
In anything. Yeah, truly. Which is something that I've really appreciated in your work, because growing up in South Florida, I know that Afro-Latinidad exists, but when you leave South Florida, it's like, people are like, what? Like,
you speak Spanish?
What? That's wild, right? Why was it so important for that representation, for you to write it and for readers to read it?
I think it's just who I am, right? Like, I want to ensure that when my daughter, please don't read my books, child, but when she's an adult and she looks at any type of media, that she sees herself in a way that maybe I didn't see myself in other times. And I mean, we could go deep into it. Right. It's about, I was the biggest friend of the group. I look at pictures of myself now and I'm like, I was a honey, like, excuse me? But I didn't see that representation in media. So then I thought I was the big girl, right? And I was like, no, I was the... Okay, that boy got lucky, by the way. Okay, that boy. So yeah, it's just kind of telling our stories, because I think as each generation goes through, there should be a representation of our story and what we live, and then hopefully we'll get to a place where it's out there, so it's not this like, oh wow.
Right, like, oh, yeah, that exists.
Yeah, like I remember going to college and I had love her to death, like a Mexican friend, and I don't know what I said. I'm like, yeah, because I'm black, and she's like, but you're not black, and I'm like, very black, I am black, that is the first thing that I will tell you. I'm like, I'm black and then everything else.
Right.
So it's just this, there's no point of reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it.
In the book, she goes on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a vacation fling?
Oh my goodness.
For those who are not here, her whole family is in the room. So, to their surprise, she has written 3 other books that they had no idea existed.
I have had, yes, before the boy, I did, yes.
Before the boy.
Yeah.
We love
we
the
go
boy.
on vacation, so that is my fling on vacation. So there you go.
I love it. Romance often involves exploring themes of love, intimacy, and relationships. How do you approach balancing these themes with plot and character development?
That's a great question. Wow, you have me working here. Okay, girl. I think one of the things that my mild books will have is that I think there's this expectation, especially for us Black, Latina women, that, you know, that kind of like Madonna, mother, you know, kind of persona.
Right.
Or we're overly sexualized. It's one or the other. Like the in between is the hard part to get, right? And I think we're getting better as a society to change that narrative. Sure. So I'm not saying that we're stuck there.
Sure.
But I think what I like writing realistic characters. I like them to have a community. Most of my books, they have a very big like family and like friends community. I like them to be slightly self-aware, or sometimes very self-aware, but they're still working through healing or understanding themselves better. And I think there's a way where we could marry all of that and the intimacy and the romance, where it all kind of converges, because at the end of the day, we all are complex, and you know, so I think it's just being able to write that and kind of showcase how if you pick up my book, it should feel
very mild book.
The very mild book. If you pick any of the very mild books, you should feel like I remember reading like BDSM books and like kink books back in the day, and it would always feel like very dark, and they were always like billionaire and millionaires, and you know, they had all of this like they're jaded and
they couldn't just be normal people.
Never, right? I want you to pick up the books and be like, oh, this person just goes to work and then they go home and
then they get spanked. It's just part of the day. Like, choke me a little, but don't kill me. You know, like
babe, I had a hard day.
Yeah.
Let's go to the room.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then they wake up and they go to work the next day.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all.
You know what?
That's the book.
That should be the blurb.
There you go. We're gonna, this is, I like it. Yeah.
Well, I think what's so important too, right? Like, as a Latina reading stories like yours, is that we can have these different dimensions to us, and it doesn't mean any less of us, which I don't think we see enough, right? Like you mentioned, it's either we're like the matriarch or we are over sexualized. Yeah. There's no like happy place in between where we can be both. And I think books like yours like allow us to see ourselves and being able to do both, and I think that that's so special. Something that always comes up in your books is different sexual identities. In Out of Office, we have bisexual representation, and you have different kind of sexual identity representation throughout the books. Why is that such an important part of your books? Because I don't think that is there any of your books that don't have different sexual identities?
That's a good question. I think Plie actually. Oh no, I'm lying. No, she's bisexual. Embers.
Okay.
Embers. I think they're the only ones who are heterosexual. And A Turn in the Air. Same. Yeah. My siblings, because I include my cousin in it, you know, we all are queer in some way, shape, or form. Actually, we have a family, like, you know, this generation group chat, because we have also the family chat with the people that are here. And that one we keep it very PG. But we have another group chat for the generation, and the name of the group chat is the boy's name and the queers, because the boy is the only heterosexual person.
That's so funny.
So, and my cousins and my siblings are gonna kill me, but everyone is queer, and that's what I know, and that is the life. And some of us are living, heteronormative like couplehood, and we're very respectful of that. Mm-hmm. So there's certain stories that I wouldn't feel comfortable telling, but at the same time, that is what I know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It just dawned on me earlier. You mentioned someone in your family has a Panamanian dance group, and in a Blaze, don't we have we have like a carnaval?
It's Caribbean carnival.
Is there a connection there, or did I just make that up?
So there's not, and there is, because now I'm gonna get deep into it, and like the history nerd is gonna come out. But for most areas where we have enslaved Black people, you are going to have a version of some type of carnival, and representation of the Maroons and the history and how, and you see it in Out of Office is very present, and it's just kind of how our Black people found ways to celebrate themselves still in an oppressed environment. So part of what we do in the dance group is Congo dancing, which is mentioned in Out of Office. In a Blaze, it is more of like Caribbean carnival. Okay. So what you see in the islands, like Trinidad and Tobago, and Tobago, like things like that. But there is a historic commonality in the carnival. I'm sounding so like, oh my god, the nerd is coming out. But there is a commonality there, so that's a great question, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When like you mentioned that earlier, I was like, wait. Yeah. Dance group.
Yeah.
Costumes.
There is. Yeah.
Threesomes. Sorry. The family is present. My bad. I mean, you brought them to Steamy lit.
It's true. But I did warn everybody. I'm like, what happens in Steamy lit stays in Steamy lit.
Yeah. And the podcast.
And everybody can hear it. So everybody. Yeah.
Sexuality can be a source of empowerment for some individuals. How does your writing explore the connection between sexuality and personal empowerment? And I think we touched on this a little bit, but is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think there's a beauty when you can live your identity and know that you are embraced by your community, and that's what I try to do in my books. In a Blaze specifically, we have a conversation at the end, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but the female character is kind of afraid of telling her parents about her they know that she's bisexual, but her full identity.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where her dad tells her, I don't understand it all, but I love you.
Right.
And I think there's a space for us to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
So I think there is empowerment in knowing that your community loves you. So
yeah, I agree. Something similar but not similar, like telling my mom, who had never even talked to me about sex, was just like, here's some birth control, in case you need it. And I'm like, what? Like, what are we, what? Like, we're not gonna have a conversation. To being like, hey, I started a subscription box that sells romance books and vibrators. She was like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
This is like how I feel right now.
Right, yeah. And I was like, do you want one? And she's like, no, I'm good.
My mom read one of the books.
Ooh, how'd you feel about that?
We don't talk about it.
Okay.
That's how we survive, all of us.
Yeah. So my mom has helped me pack boxes before, and she'll like look at the vibrator, and she's like, and I'm like, take it, like take one. She's like, no, your stepdad, and I'm like, he's gonna love it too. Take it. And she's like, and I'm like, I know, I need Jesus. It's fine. Jesus made this. Jesus put pleasure in this world.
Jesus said that person that's gonna create the toy, they're
blessed. Okay, blessed.
Who am I
to deny what I was put in this world
Jesus
for?
said, love your neighbor as yourself.
Okay.
That is.
And your bean.
I'm in New Testament.
Which someone today learned what a bean was. he picked up one of the little bean pins and he was like, "What is this?" And somebody was like, a bean, you know, like your bean, like flick your bean, and he was like, I need more. And somebody else, I think she laughed, she was like, you know, it's like an anatomical part of your body, and I was like, wow, you said that really nice, but it's your clit. So that's what the bean is. But if you want it to be a pickle, it can be whatever you want it to be. You know,
a pickle is yes.
You know,
okay.
like tickle your pickle.
True.
You know.
True. Yeah, I like the bean better.
I like the bean better too. Well, and I think in like Latin households in general, right? Like we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about pleasure. For the most part, a woman's role is for their husband and to procreate. It's not about like having an orgasm. And so I think books like yours, again, like really bring to the forefront our pleasure and that we can be a matriarch and we can be the person who does all of these things, and we can also get an orgasm at the end, and that's okay. It's part of life, you know.
That's like Claudia in the book.
Mm-hmm.
That is the she's a matriarch and she's living her best life with her husband Mario. Every corner you find them, they're over here like
fucking on.
love it. All these children.
Oh,
This 45-year-old, she can't. That boy is the boy.
it's the boy. We love the boy.
love it.
Do you believe that people can have an instant connection like in your book? Because
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Do you believe in soulmates?
I believe in soul ties and
Soul
beyond.
ties. Tell me more.
I think that there's a capacity for people to love in abundance.
Multiple people?
I think it depends on the person.
Mm.
I think it depends on the person. But I do think that there's yes. I wouldn't write what I write if I didn't believe that.
That's,
Yeah.
that is true.
Wink, wink.
Touche.
Yeah.
You should all read AH's backlist. It's great. Maybe
Not
not her
everybody in this
family.
room,
Not
no.
her family.
Certain people in the room can read the backlist. Support. Yes, thank you.
You can buy them, but gift them.
Yes. Also, my father has also read most of the books.
Oh my! See, that would, if my father was alive, he would probably be like, right now in his grave, he's probably like turning over 1,000 times.
He might have surprised you.
Maybe.
And I'm not gonna tell the story because I know he's a very private man. But there was one, and he's gonna know exactly what I'm saying. We were in a car, and he brought up a topic about love and abundance, and I was like, what is happening? And I'm like, so yeah. I think as our parents see us as adults, it opens up the space for for more.
And I think that this could be a whole other podcast, but you know, sometimes as like the children, right, it's hard to remember, like we hold our parents in this light and we forget that they are very much human and like go through all of these experiences that we do too. So when you find this like same playing field, right, where like you orgasm, I orgasm, they orgasm.
I know that I talked with my dad about that part. I don't want to know what he does at all. He does not need to know what I do.
No.
But I think it allows you to think of our elders and understand them better as well.
I agree.
And as we're going through our own journeys, then we can kind of put it all together and understand everything that they've done for us. So yeah.
Have you had any challenges writing about sex in books and pleasure and like empowerment of pleasure? Have you received any like, oh, she's writing sex, or any kind of taboo type responses to you writing about sex and sexuality? And how have you overcome them, if you've had any?
For the most part, no, I will say. I think there have been some readers that will tell me that certain books are a little bit beyond what they're used to reading, but that
more mild than what you think.
Yeah. They were looking for milder than my mild books.
Okay.
And they'll say, well, but the way that you treated the topic helped me kind of like I do try to be very gentle on how, even though yes, they're all mild, I do try to be gentle about how I introduce some of the topics, so that if this is the first time that you're reading about kink, it doesn't feel overwhelming, right? Like it feels accessible. So no, for the most part, I haven't had pushback. The boy says that I write I'm so sorry. I write books about dicks. That's what he says that I write. But it's the one we're like joking around.
Yeah.
But
they started making money, so you're
so.
gonna keep writing about dicks.
And it's
And
I'm not writing exactly.
It's not.
It's really that's not
No,
the
that's not the center plot. We don't care about his orgasm.
Well, we do. They're people. They're people.
They're people.
They're
fine.
people. They're not.
You
parts.
have an orgasm. I have an orgasm.
They get character development too. They're people. We love them. But God, I'll never survive this.
Was this in your bingo card for 2024?
Never. This is part of my journey. My therapist is gonna be so proud of me. So proud of me. She's gonna be like, good for you. And I'm gonna be like, I'm never doing this ever again. Trágame tierra.
Yeah, if I had to do this in front of my family, I wouldn't.
But you have me here.
Yeah.
But you did say that I invited them, so that's
You
fair.
invited
but
them.
I could not come to South Florida.
Yeah,
and invite them.
yeah.
So how are we gonna get that this
I don't know. I mean, you could have warned me and been like, they don't know I wrote. Just out of office. That's it. Out of office looks like the cover looks like such a.
It's cute and
Yeah,
it's
wholesome. Like,
and the story is
yeah.
wholesome. I'm comfortable with them reading out of office. They can read out of
it's
office.
not.
This is a message for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at them right now, but
No. I am. I mean, like this. Never mind. It is milder, so it's a good place to start. I think.
Start.
Just finish.
They
Start
can-
and finish.
They can read the next one that is coming out next year with Harlequin.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Are there more books in this world?
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's with Harlequin.
Okay.
Another standalone. Yeah.
I thought we were gonna maybe get.
Maybe.
Okay. Because
Maybe
like
not.
you hint at like another couple in there.
But maybe
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe later.
We're
Okay,
building.
we
We're
love
building.
it. Okay. You mentioned kink earlier. What are obviously like with sex and talking about pleasure and sexuality.
We're gonna talk about that the whole time, huh?
Yeah. It's Steamy lit.
Yep. You're right. I did this to myself.
Yep. You sure did.
I also have coworkers here. Friends.
You should.
They've known me for years.
You
but
should hit me up and be like,
They
hey.
still work in the same company that I work in.
We need this to be a mild conversation. And then
I'm keeping it mild. Do you see me?
Yeah. You're
weaving
like,
and bobbing and
yeah.
you're doing a good job.
Yeah, you're right. I'm the one screaming orgasms. I mean,
you keep on saying orgasms.
I'm sorry.
I said that and then you followed up with orgasms and I don't know why that
I'm
happened.
sorry.
You told me that if your parents were here, you wouldn't.
I know, but
I love it though, because
I mean, now
we're in it.
Yeah,
I'm here with you.
We gotta do it.
We gotta do it.
Let's
All
talk about
15 lit.
how consent and boundaries, how you address them throughout the book. I feel like they're very important considerations when you write it. Why is that an important exploration of pleasure?
I think when I was reading books back in the day, I think consent and boundaries were very blurred before. And I think as a romance community, we kind of like had to learn together that some of that stuff was a little very toxic.
Yeah.
So
again, choke me a little bit, but don't kill me.
Please. And ask me first. Let's negotiate.
Yeah, please. Like, let's negotiate on this pressure. Like,
correct. Let's talk about what do you like? What do I like?
Thank you.
What works for you? And it should be things that intersection.
Right.
And I think, to your point, I think sometimes there's this mentality, an old school mentality, and I think we for sure have moved on a lot from that, but probably 3 generations ago, if a man wanted to do something in bed, it happened.
Right.
Like, did the woman have a true say? Well, no, that's his wife.
Right.
So I'm like over exaggerating that, but it is important to have those conversations. I think, to your point, a lot of us we might have had some type of like sex talk, but I don't know that I remember ever having, consent in regards to the worst case scenario of what could happen, but never about if you're in a relationship, what that conversation should look like, so that both people are in the same, or more people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or more people.
We're in it. They're gonna go online after this and like see what the books are about. So.
Yeah, I think they already started.
They're doing it.
They were sitting here and they're like, oh, I googled, and I was like, I'm minding my business. I'm like writing my questions. But your man's over here is on Google. He's like, they have reviews. And I was like, oh shit.
I write under a pseudonym for a reason.
Yep. Well,
we're in it.
Are there any misconceptions about sex or pleasure that you try to debunk in your writing?
I think size is one thing.
Size, okay.
That only certain size
can bring pleasure.
Correct.
Okay. Size of what?
Anything. Body type.
Okay.
Anything.
Wow, that was good. Smooth operator.
Thank you. That's how I write my books.
Oh yeah, you sure do.
That's how I can write my books. That the end goal needs to be a certain goal. It doesn't always need to be an orgasm. Sometimes it can be the experience. Specifically with the books that have kink, that kink is not always sexual, because I think that's a huge misconception.
Yeah.
And that it could be awkward and fun. That it doesn't always have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that you can always try again.
Yeah.
And again.
And again.
When you get home from work.
Yeah. For readers who are being introduced to you, what's a good starting point to your books?
A light or out of office.
Okay.
And if you like more mild, you can start in plie.
Okay.
But that's a start. So if you're gonna start with plie, just know that you're going to the highest mild book that I.
Ooh.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
That series is all about kink. So if you're not somebody that likes kink, don't read that series.
Have you did you do any like research on
we're in it. I'm here with you.
On kink or BDSM prior to writing the different books?
Yeah, something that is really important to me is most of my characters, with the exception of one, are all Black in the Black diaspora. So I think you see a lot of representation in romance books for kink that is white, but not our intersections. So I wanted to be very respectful of that, and I think there's great content creators that are out there that are willing to talk, and hop on a Zoom call and just educate, and it's such a beautiful educational space. So that's how I did my research. I mean, there's a lot that we all know when we read the books that we are looking for in regards to plot, and it needs to have this or that, but I just wanted to be very respectful, because again, these are people that are just out there living normal lives, very private lives. Exactly. Yeah. Some of them are very private, some of them are not, depending on their own situations, but I wanted to be very respectful of the representation for sure.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
One final question.
I survived.
It's mild.
Hey!
Okay. What do you hope readers take from your romance books?
Just be yourself. Be with someone that you could be yourself. Know that your community is gonna have your back. They're right here, and they've heard a lot of things that probably scandalize them, but they're here. Yeah. They're supporting me.
They're here. So next step, the steam box for them.
Yes. There you go. And the event as well. So but yeah, I just think that sometimes I want love to feel accessible in my books. I think sometimes when we see, rom-coms or we read romance, it feels like this kind of big otherworldly, like, wow, but those wows happen in the everyday.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to take away when they read the books.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and purchase your books?
Nowhere. I'm about to delete all the social media. I'm about to change my pseudonym as well.
Take off the books
Take
from
off the
Goodreads. They can't find it.
I'm about to run and do all of that right after this. I'm kidding. I am on Instagram, AHC Writes. I am in Twitter, AH Cunningham 1, because apparently there was another AH Cunningham, I don't know why. Also AHC Write in TikTok. In there you will be able to see a video about the spectrum of my mild books to understand better where to start if you want to see that. And I do have my website as well. ahcunninghamauthor.com. And then I'm always hanging out with the community. That's how I met you. That's how I met so many wonderful people. And I'll be in a cave after this.
When's the next book coming out?
I'm working right now in the second book that I have with Harlequin. That won't come out until I believe spring of 2025.
Okay. So we'll do this again spring of 2025. Okay.
Sure.
So just keep that in mind while you're writing your mild book.
Understood.
That we're gonna be in front of family and friends here.
Yes, I will keep that in mind. And then I am working on my next independent book, Joao, for those who are reading the Hidden series. This has been one of the hardest books I've ever written, but it's because this is a character that has been present in a lot of the other books in the AH Cunningham universe, and that particular universe is very interconnected, even though you could come in into different,
but the friend group is very interconnected.
Exactly. It's a community basically, and they all kind of know each other like generationally. So because he's been in so many books, it's been a little like hard to harness all of that. But that should come out now, hopefully. Maybe Q3, maybe Q4, and then after that, Mila's books.
Okay. Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you for joining us on Romance Unleashed. We will talk very, very soon.
Yes. If you find me.
If we finish. Thank you, all of us, for joining.